right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Joey B podcast. Got started a little bit later than I wanted to. I was waiting for my laundry to dry, and I know I said I was not gonna do like a video podcast till I was done designing the podcast studio, but I just decided against it. For people that do watch it on Instagram or they just want to see it live. And the studio build out is not on the forefront of the most important items that I need to do, but the podcast is. And tonight I'm just going to break down a lot. I've had a lot brewing in the cauldron, and so I've just been kind of mulling over how I want to talk about this next topic or approach it. And before I share the story, I did get approval from Ryan to share this story. And this is something that has been going on behind the scenes now for almost a month, maybe a month and a half. No, yeah, definitely a month and a half, because I've been back from the jungle for about a month and 3 days. 33 days. Anyways, so the title of the podcast, "A Lump in the Breast," but I don't want to start with that. I want to kind of end with that because it kind of ties into a lot of things. Really, I just kind of wanted to give an update first about me being back from the jungle and all that has unfolded. I've only been back, like I said, for 33 days. I've made one podcast since I've been back, and it's been really interesting. I had a conversation with one of my teachers the other day on the phone, and I had told him, he's like, "Oh, how are you feeling? Like, what's going on?" And I just told him, it's just so interesting being back this time versus last time, because last time I just got thrown into all kinds of different things, from Ryan's wedding to getting prepared for it, to what am I going to do when the OPT lease ends, to looking for a new OPT lease, to negotiating an OPT lease, then finding a new OPT, then breaking down OPT, and then reopening OPT, and then I went right back to the jungle. And so there was just like a lot that was, I guess, I haven't unpacked a lot of the last trip. I was like telling my friends, probably like unpacked, if I were to do like a percentage, this is a percentage that I've unpacked, I would say I'd probably unpacked like 10% of my first jungle trip. And so now this next part of the year is just kind of going to be around unpacking all of these things. And since I've been back, it's been very interesting, like I told my teachers, because I'm still really sensitive. Not sensitive in the, like, it's very hard to describe. It's sensitive and like, I'm still so very like raw and open from my experiences. And I'm so used to just powering through things. Like if things are difficult or challenging or hard, I just kind of put my head down and go. And that's kind of what happened before I left for the jungle. If you listen to the podcast, not only before I left, but while I was in the jungle, there was a lot of things that like got kicked up for me in my personal life. And though I did take time to like feel it because I was on dieta, so I couldn't run from my emotions, I couldn't run from it, I still had to get things I needed to get done every single day for OPT to make sure when I left, everything was in proper working condition. And so I still had that kind of motivation to just kind of go. Like I didn't really have time to waste. And now that I'm back, there's nothing other than keeping my business alive that's like pressing the forefront of what it is that I need to do every day, other than, hey, here's the things I need to do every day. Make sure I get these things done every day. So I guess what I'll start with is that that's how it's been. I've been real sensitive to like things that have been happening, things that have been going on. I'm just aware of the pace at which I move way more than normal. And I haven't had any coffee since I've been back, but I've definitely had caffeine. I have only had, since I've been back in 33 days, I've only had 2 days where I've been over 200 milligrams of caffeine. The other days I'm around, I've had 4 days where I've been above 200 milligrams of caffeine. But other than that, it's about 150 to 160 milligrams of caffeine. I would say between 150 and 170 milligrams of caffeine. And that's important because for me, I love caffeine. I love moving at a super fast pace in everything that I do. But being off of it for 5 months, I really could see not only how productive I could be without it, I also like wasn't aware. I was really aware of when I am tired. I don't like to do things when I'm tired. I like to have energy to do things. But while I was on dieta, I just, no matter how tired I was, I still just had to get things going. I didn't have that extra kick of caffeine. And now that I'm back, I have that extra kick of caffeine. And I have to be aware that I don't lean on that too much. And I feel like I've done, this is the best that I've ever done. I could probably drop it to like 120 milligrams of caffeine if I like paste it or space it out in a different way. But I've just been worried about overall caffeine intake, especially when you're sensitive. It like can really kind of fluster you or create a lot more like confusion, or just kind of have you run around in circles, or just be more intense when you don't need that intensity. But I live off of intensity. Like I love intensity. So that's just been interesting. I only bring that up because it's just kind of one of the things that I'm noticing about when I'm high caffeine versus medium caffeine, and trying not to force myself to do something when I'm not really kind of have the mental capacity to. And caffeine can kind of just like force me to do things even though mentally I'm not fully engaged. And the main thing I've been really working on since I've been back is just really getting OPT stable. When I was in the jungle this second time around, I was just like, oh yeah, if OPT dies, OPT dies. And it's just a clear sign that it's time for me to do something different. Meaning, I'll always do what I'm doing. Health, fitness, breath work, meditation, coaching. But it just might not be in the capacity that it looks like right now with the 3,000 square foot studio and a separate room for working out and sauna and ice and meditation. And it just might be completely something different where I'm just doing my own thing. And I really had to wrestle with that, not only when I was in the jungle, but since I've been back. And the jungle really prepared me because I just thought about so much, why isn't OPT working in the way that I think it should work? Or so many people, they just, since I've been back, I've gotten so many kind text messages, and the sober living communities that we work with, and the classes that I'm teaching around sobriety. I've gotten so much positive feedback that's what's like hard to let go. But it's kind of like, all right, how do I tweak what it is how can I communicate what it is that we do, how we do it, and why people should do it in a way that connects with more people. That's the problem that I'm trying to solve right now. That's the web I'm trying to create. And it's freaking tough. It's just annoying, especially because the nature of marketing these days is just so different. And I guess for me, that's why I like to do this podcast. It's why I started, my second, completely different Instagram page, so where I could go into things deeply, or share things that I think that are just funny or stupid or mindless, or, the way that I approach certain things, and then keep OPT stuff just OPT stuff, which I definitely think I'm getting better at. I'm still working on compartmentalizing it more and more and more. And so then, how do I continuously iron that out or smooth it out? And I've had a lot of help. So shout out to this guy, Matt. He's one of our professional athletes that we train. And he's taken a lot of free time just to like sit down with me and like, hey, try this, or like look at it like this, or try doing these things, and teaching me how to do some of these things. And it's been really, really helpful. And I think one of the things this time around in the jungle, which connects to my last time in the jungle as far as how addiction goes, and my approach to how I see things, or how I do things, or the way that I interpret things, and how is it that I can bend without completely changing what it is that I do or how I conduct myself or express myself, but just make it in a more clean, consistent, stable way. And I think I've done a lot better job at that, but I guess we'll see in 2 months from now if I'm closing OPT or not. And so just like thinking about all that kind of stuff and balancing those things out. And so that's kind of what's been happening. And there's a lot of good things that are happening. There's a lot of new people at OPT. There's a lot of speaking engagements that have been presented to me. I'm giving this keynote speech at Hopi Reservation Tuba City, out in Tuba City in like 2 weeks, which is going to be huge speaking opportunity for me, which I'm really super duper excited about. And just kind of like stepping into more of, I guess, not being so repressed. I think one of the things being back this time in the jungle, what I realized was I repress a lot of things. I repress a lot of thoughts or ideas or emotions, which why I started my second Instagram account, because I love sharing. I love speaking. I love writing. I love trying to have people look at things differently or see things from a different perspective or have difficult conversations, anything like that. Things that I find, like I said, are hilarious but are completely inappropriate to some people. I like sharing that kind of stuff. And when I was in the jungle, it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, man, there's a lot of things that are repressed, from emotions to things that I want to pursue, to things that I want to do, things that I want to say, things that I want to say to certain people. And since being back, I've been able to have, man, I've had so many beautiful, powerful, meaningful conversations since I've been back, and it's just been awesome. Conversations that I didn't know I needed to have, but also I didn't know how they were going to shake out when I needed to have them. But then they just came out so awesome, and it was great. It's been great. And I guess that's where I'll start as far as the main stuff goes with this post that I put up on my other page. It's called _Apache_alchemist. And, we just had 4th of July. And when I share this stuff, I'm only speaking for me. I'm not speaking for every Native American. I'm not even speaking for another Native American other than myself. Now, when I say that, when people disagree with me or think I have a harsh point of view or whatever it might be, I always tell people, then have the conversation with me and make sure that the conversation that you have with me aligns not only philosophically, because a lot of people that want to have different conversations with me, they don't have a solid understanding of philosophy and logic. So from the gate, they haven't sorted out philosophy and logic in their own mind, in their own life, in their own how they act. And so they're already lost and discombobulated. And so when I tell people, I say, okay, as long as it lines up philosophically, logically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, we can have a conversation. But if you can't align in all those 6 areas, then you're dead in the water, because I'm making sure that when I share or talk about these things, it's in line with all of the things that I'm talking about. And so it was 4th of July, and on Sunday I was sitting in the sauna and thinking about the 4th of July. And, if you know me, I'm very passionate about bringing awareness to what happened to Native Americans in this country. Especially because as I started to read real history, true history, I really realized how much the government, the U.S., religion lies about what happened to Native Americans in this country. And so when certain quote-unquote holidays arise, it's very hard for me to not get angry or resentful or aggressive or blame people. And so on Sunday, I was sitting in the sauna and just like thinking and breathing, and this whole thing that the Statue of Liberty came up. And I was like, that's like, we're about to celebrate the 4th of July, and nobody actually really knows what happens to Native Americans. We're going to be celebrating these soldiers who fought in war and did all these brave things. And I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, though, those same soldiers, the same government, the same religions, raped, murdered, tortured, stole children, kidnapped children from their homes, and completely annihilated, genocided an entire race of humans, Native Americans. But it's they don't ever talk about that. And the U.S. government and religion has done nothing but try to genocide, annihilate, and erase the history of Native Americans and who we are as a people, who we are as spiritual people, who we are as spiritual leaders, who we are as healers and medicine people, prophets. And I was like sitting there and I'm like, that's crazy that we have this statue of quote unquote liberty, and it was a copper brown statue at first, and now it's been oxidized and it's turquoise. And I'm like, man, like no matter how hard people try, you're never going to get rid of Native Americans, and that's our color, turquoise. We're even in what's considered Native American philosophy. We're in what's called the blue world right now, the turquoise world, and it's the fourth world. And it's turquoise. And I'm like, that's our color. And like, no matter how hard the government and people and the military has tried to remove us, you're never going to remove us from this country. You're never going to remove who we are. And I was like, I've never thought about that, and I've never heard anyone talk about that before. And so I wrote this whole thing up as like, then the 4th of July happened. I didn't say anything. I thought about it. I thought about the genocide of our people pretty much all day. And if you know me, I love movies. Like, there's nothing, I just love movies, man. I think, one, because that's how our family connected growing up. But two, the teachings in movies, if you know how to watch movies, if you know what to look for, if you have a solid understanding of how to write a story, if you understand philosophy, if you read any Joseph Campbell or understand the hero's journey, you can look at every movie through that lens, and you can extrapolate so many life lessons. Now, you don't have to look at it like that, and I'm going to take a little bit of a side tangent right here because I was hanging some stuff at OPT and I rehung up the Gom Jabbar, which is this whole thing in the movie Dune, and I talk about Dune all the time, and I'm like, this book changed my life. And I have many books that have changed my life. I have music that has changed my life. And the thing about changing your life is you have to be willing to let things change your life. You have to be, so like I read the book Dune, and I'm like, it changed my life. And people always ask me how, and I explain it to them. But then today, as I was rehanging it, I'm like, you have to actually want to let something change your life in order for it to happen. And when I read Dune, I didn't expect it to change my life, but I was just open to reading this, one of the world's most famous books, one of the greatest science fiction novels ever written. It's like, I'm open to letting it change my life. And that's not usually how it's read. It's read as sci-fi. And then you could say, oh, like something, like everyone knows this book. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people know the book The Alchemist. Oh my God, The Alchemist is so good. It changed my life, blah, 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 blah. And I've read The Alchemist. It's a great book. But I'm telling you right now, The Dune is a 10 times better book with deeper lessons than Alchemist could ever have. But people will look at Dune as sci-fi versus, no man, this is like a real, it's the story of Native Americans for one, but the lessons you can extrapolate from it go far beyond The Alchemist. The Alchemist is just a cupcake. And Dune is a 5-course meal. So anyways, I say all that because when I started to look at the 4th of July and these different things, I'm like, man, what's the story that's being told? And it's like, we're just told a lie. And I talked about how the Statue of Liberty should be called the statue for the deaf, the ignorant, and the blind, because you have to be deaf, ignorant, and blind to believe that this country was built on liberty, when it was built on murder, rape, torture, genocide, the kidnapping of children, destroying of families, natives forced on reservations. And I started to really go down this rabbit hole because I love movies. Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite directors, and I found out about this movie probably like right when COVID happened, and it's called The Killers of the Flower Moon. I've been waiting for almost 3 years for this movie to come out, and it's finally getting ready to come out. And it's about the Native Americans and a part of the land that there was an oil rush on. And it's starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's all about, white people coming in and taking Native American land because they found oil on it. Prior to that, though, they thought that the land was worthless. And then they found oil and, massacred and murdered all the natives and kicked them off and put them on a reservation. And was like, this land's ours and your land's over here. And we get all the money from the oil. Anyways, so I just saw the second trailer for it, and it just got me mad, and this is like one of those things too where I fucking hate talking to certain people, especially spiritual people. I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be angry, da, 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 da. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, just because you have a dysfunctional relationship with anger doesn't mean I have a dysfunctional relationship with anger. I used to, I don't anymore, but I'm done. There is a sadness in me around what happened to my people, my ancestors. Yeah, I've grieved a lot. I've cried a lot. But there's still an anger because, I ask people this question. Name one time sadness got anything accomplished. Sadness have never accomplished anything. But there's been a lot of really amazing things that's happened because of anger. In terms of competition, in terms of sport, art, poetry, music. Like, anger has changed the world for good when people know how to channel it correctly. Now, people have channeled it incorrectly, and it's caused a lot of chaos in the world. But uh, so then I saw this trailer and I was just getting angry. And I'm like, man, I just know how this is going to go. I'm going to go see the movie. One, shout out to my ancestors. But two, I hope people see the movie and really realize this is a true story. This happened not once, hundreds if not thousands of times across the U.S. And this is just one story. And so then I just started to like go down this rabbit hole of like, why is it that in this country we're taught things that didn't even, we're taught that other genocides are more important. We're taught more about the genocide that happened in Europe with the Jewish people than we are ever taught about the genocide that happened here, Native Americans. And I brought that up in this post, and I brought up, the U.S. tried to genocide the Japanese population. They just called it self-defense and used atomic bombs. It's like they knew what one atomic bomb was, and then they decided to drop a second atomic bomb. And I've been to Hiroshima. I've been to Ground Zero. I laid tobacco there and corn there and prayed for those people and prayed for forgiveness for my ancestors and forgave those people just for me, my own sake. And it's like, oh, we know about that, but we genocided these people, but then we would just call it self-defense and atomic bombs, And we learned more about Rwanda, another awful genocide that happened. But we never learn about what happened here on this soil. And we learn more about Anne Frank and MLK and Martin Luther King than we do about any of my Native American ancestors. We're taught about Pilgrim and Indians, and it's just a fucking bunch of bullshit. And it's like people don't want to hear that. People get so attached to the color of their skin. This is U.S., this is America. And I'm not, like, for me, this is where my ancestors are from. So, like, you can't say, well, then go somewhere else. It's like, motherfucker, this is our country. All we want is a little bit of reconciliation, recognition. We want healing to happen. And then, people that have those conversations, they've never been to no reservation. They never sit with the native population that's been traumatized generation after generation after generation. So it's like so many of these conversations fall upon deaf ears because motherfuckers don't know. They don't want to know. They don't want to learn. They don't want to listen. They just want to say dumb shit like get over it. And I'm not bashing anything when it comes to the civil rights movement, but we're taught so much about slavery and black people that were hanged, but you never once understand that the largest public massacre, the largest public hanging in American history was 38 Native Americans publicly hanged by fucking Abraham Lincoln, and the crowd was cheering and clapping. No one knows that unless you're Native or you actually do the history. It's like, why aren't we taught these things? And it's just, it's crazy. And so then I wrote this whole post about it all where I'm like, man, it's fucking crazy. Because to me, I have these conversations and no one has any answers for me. They try to hide, they try to justify. They can't just like create actual change. Like, how do you create actual change? It's like we should be putting these books in schools. Instead of having me read the Diary of Anne Frank, we should read Black Elk Speaks, or we should read books about Crazy Horse or Geronimo or Chief Joseph or White Buffalo Catwoman. We should be taught about these things. But we're not. It's like people don't want truth. And, for me it strikes a different chord because not only am I Native American, but because I work with people that are from the reservation almost every day of the week, I see the generational trauma that has plagued people coming from the reservation. It's not, get it together, figure your life out. It's like some of these people are trapped. And I literally mean that. Literally trapped on the reservation. And it just really upsets me. And then, having these conversations, whoever wants to listen, it's a lot of people, there's no soft way to really talk about it, And so that's been on my mind since Sunday. And just, I feel really good because I was able to write about it in a way that was like clear, concise, not blaming, not completely coming unhinged, but in a way that I felt just like really, really happy and really proud about it. And that was just some of the things I've been thinking about the 4th of July. And I'm not telling people to not celebrate the 4th of July. I'm not telling people to not be proud of American. What I'm telling people is, hey man, you should actually go read a real history book and you should fight for these things to be taught. You should be actually trying to help people, Native Americans, heal the trauma that's happened. And I was like, yeah, man, you should take that fucking Statue of Liberty and take the crown off, braid her hair, and call her Sky Woman, because that's not a Statue of Liberty. I call it lazy liberty. You know, people are just like lazy with their liberty. They're wanting to learn, their education, their ability to change their point of view. Motherfuckers just want to stay stuck in their point of view, and it's just like so crazy to me. So anyways, that's been on my mind, on top of the OPT stuff. And so now, before the podcast started, I got my tobacco pipe. This is my Dieta pipe. If you're watching it live and you see it, I only smoke this when I'm on Dieta, and this is the last little bit of tobacco I put in my pipe from my Dieta jungle. Before this next conversation, because it's definitely like something that I never thought I'd be talking about this soon in my life, or with this person, about this person. I never saw it coming, and so then I just want to like put that out there for my girl Ryan, and get into it. Oh, well, yeah, I'll talk about this too. Maybe I'll say that for the next podcast, about what a real coach is. What a real coach is. And people don't even like... It's like I'm just at a different place now where I'm like, man, if you haven't done XYZ things, you're not a real coach. And you can't convince me otherwise. Because you, again, don't align philosophically, logically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. So you can't even... When we're talking about coaching, it's like you're not a real coach in my eyes unless you've done XYZ. And maybe that's a whole other topic for the next podcast, but there's just so many fake coaches out there. It's unbelievable. And just misguided and confused people. I think that's what's hard and frustrating for me when I have these types of conversations, because it's like it's even hard for us to have these conversations because you're not even willing to go do the research. You're not even willing to read the books. You're not even willing to talk with these people. You're not even willing to go visit reservations. So like, how can I even... You can't have these types of conversations and really get it or understand it. And it has nothing to do with your skin color. It has nothing to do with your skin color. It has everything to do with how you think. Anyways, all right. So again, I got permission to share this story from my girl Ryan. So everything I'm about to share with you, I've only talked about this with Ryan, and that's it. And so I was in the jungle, and the only person I talked to on the phone was Ryan or my mom. You know, other than that, I just try to stay off. I was posting for OPT in terms of like, I was trying to market our summer programs and stuff, because it's like I'm trying to get business, and so I wasn't in complete isolation in terms of that, but I always talk to Ryan when I'm in the jungle. It's like my best friend. She's my sister. Like there's nothing I wouldn't do for Ryan. And so it was my second week there, and I'm already just completely getting annihilated. And you can, again, go back and listen to my jungle ceremonies, and I was just getting crushed by this plant dieta. And so then Ryan calls me. It was like on a Tuesday. Yeah, it was on a Tuesday. It was either Tuesday or Thursday, because I just remember we did back-to-back ceremonies. So it had to have been on a Thursday. And she sent me a text. It was like, hey man, call me when you can. And I'm like, oh shit, something happened with OPT. Like, you know, something happened. And I call her, I'm like, what's up, Bri? She's like quiet. She's like, I don't know how to say this. I didn't want to tell you this. I didn't want to tell you because I know you're out in the jungle, and I know that, you know, like, my tobacco is just smoking still. She's like, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to make, you know, your ceremonies worse. I know your ceremony's been really hard, so I don't know. But then I just decided to, and I was like, Ryan, fucking tell me, what the fuck? Like, I'm freaking out right now, Ryan. Like, what the fuck? And she goes, I have a lump in my breast. And I was like, what? I was like a muscle? Like what? What do you mean? Like a lump? Like, what the fuck, Ryan? And she's like, no, like a lump. I'm like fucking cancer? She's like, I don't know, dude. And she just starts crying. And I'm like, now I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit because this is a big part of not only my ceremony while I was in the jungle, it literally had to do with my entire life. And I had told you in my podcast when I saw my dad for the first time in 4.5 years, I completely disassociated. Like I was on autopilot. Like I was gone out of my body. And that's how I've been a lot of my life because there's been so much trauma in my life. I'm not saying I have more trauma than other people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me, Joey B, I've had a lot of trauma in my life. And one of the things that I've dealt with it is I just disassociate. I just check out. You know that song, it's like that's what happens to me. And immediately she told me that, and I went to like, cause she didn't want to tell me because she goes, I just don't want you to go into catastrophic thinking because I know that's what you do. You go into catastrophic thinking, and I already know you're in catastrophic thinking mode right now because of everything that's coming up. And I wasn't going to tell you because I don't want you to do that. And the thing about me, though, my go-to thought process is everything is going to go bad. It's all going to be a catastrophe, just more bad shit after the other. When catastrophe actually does happen, I actually totally calms me down because I know how to navigate chaos so good that it's like, oh, I already know how to do this. Like I'm then comfortable here. I'm comfortable in chaos. I'm comfortable in catastrophic situations. But I live in that even though it's not happening. And so when she told me that, and I didn't tell some of this stuff until after my ceremony because I realized what I did. I immediately disassociated and went into problem solving mode. I'm like, oh my God, Ryan. I'm like, okay, here's what we got to do. And I just started giving her a list of all the things she's got to do. I said, oh, you got to call this person. You got to call this person. I'm going to put you into this. I'm going to tell Remy. We're going to sing to it tonight. I was like, I'm going to sing to it tonight in ceremony. I was like, Ryan, we're going to like get through this no matter what it is. Like, we're going to fucking do this, right? And I was like, don't fucking hide things like this from me, Ryan. Like, that's what this is for. Like, this is what family's for. This is what community's for. And she's like, don't say anything. Don't tell Steph. Steph's going to freak out. Don't tell anybody. Like, just keep this between me. I said, all right, but I got to tell Remy because Remy's got to sing with it. She's like, all right, tell Remy, but don't say anything else. I'm like, all right. Like, I just went immediately into, there is a catastrophe happening. My sister could literally have fucking breast cancer at the age of goddamn 30, and I'm like stuck in the fucking jungle. But it's the most perfect place for me to be at because spiritually I can do work in this realm. And what I'm about to share with you is going to sound crazy for a lot of people, but you're not in this world. And so just remove that for a second. And when I talk about things spiritually, what I'm about to share with you, these are the things. This is the level that I not only operate at, but see things in my understanding of things. And one of the things that you need to know about me, I believe that everything is a spiritual teaching. All sickness stems from a spiritual sickness. You can't change that from me. Not only is that a Native American belief, it's actually a Shipibo belief too, which is why I'm studying the Shipibo lineage, because it's very, very similar to Native American tradition. And so in both Native American spirituality, if there's a sickness happening, it's a spiritual sickness. It's not a physical sickness. It's not a psychological sickness. It's a spiritual sickness. That's the same thing for Shipibo. So the timing of this conversation was perfect. And I didn't understand that until Ryan told me and I went through these two ceremonies. So I immediately went into fix. Here we go. We got this, Ryan. I'm going to send you this person's phone number. I'm going to send you this person's phone number. I need you to call them ASAP. You're going to be doing this and da-da-da-da-da. And like, you know, we got done off the phone. I was like, all right, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'm going to report back to you what I see in ceremony. So I hang up the phone. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I didn't say anything yet to my teachers because when you're on dieta, there's certain rules that you can and cannot be doing in terms of what you're not and not what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do in terms of your shamanic skill set, we'll say. But me, I'm the rule breaker, and you can't tell me not to do something that I know how to do, especially if it's for my sister Ryan. And so I told my teacher Remy, I said, Remy, you know, hey man, can you sing for Ryan tonight? Like, because in Shipibo Native American, you can sing to anything, which means like you can heal to anything, or at least you can see it or understand it or energetically do things to like remove these things from the person's body, their spiritual body, you name it. I'm not at that level yet, but I have enough language to be in the ballpark to know what to do. And I said, Remy, can you sing for Ryan tonight, but don't say anything to anybody? Like, I can't let this get out. Just, he was like, okay, yeah. And so then that night we go into ceremony, I drink, and all I'm thinking about is Ryan. Like, my problems, when that happens, like, everything in my life minimizes. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. I need to help my sister Ryan through all this, right? And one of the things for me, because I own a small business and we don't make any money, I told my friend today, I was like, bro, I should be living off of welfare, which is, why my podcast studio right now is my apartment. And I immediately was like, dude, this is my fault because I can't pay Ryan enough money to have insurance in terms of like being someone who owns your own business and having health insurance. And that's a whole other rabbit hole where it's like insurance companies just fuck people that own a small business. Like the insurance to like have your own insurance and you run your own business is so fucking crazy. It's unbelievable. That's a whole other scam and rabbit hole about kickbacks and tax write-offs for companies, government. It's all, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. But I immediately was like, dude, this is my fault. And I said, man, it's another reason why I'm like, I don't know if OPT is what I'm supposed to be doing because I can't provide not only insurance for myself, I can't provide enough money for the people that work for me to have their own insurance. I'm like, I got to tell Ryan, like, she's just got to get another job and I'll just have to figure out OPT on my own. Not because I don't want Ryan around. I don't want Ryan to not have health insurance. So like before ceremonies, like, man, this is it. OPT's dead. OPT's dying. Like, because I don't want to see my friends, my family go through these things and not have an out. Now, I have friends that are doctors, so we were able to do some things, luckily. And so I'm like thinking about all this going into ceremony, and my whole intention was, okay, I'm going to like sing to Ryan. And when you're on dieta, you're not supposed to sing to people. And I was like, well, I got to. Like, I'm not going to let my sister just not like go through this on her own. So I drink the ayahuasca, I sit on my mat, and the medicine kicks on, and you're in spirit world. And I'm like, okay, like here's what I know. I can call Ryan's soul. So I called the Ryan soul, and Ryan appeared right in front of me, like this. I mean, it's like clear as day. Ryan is sitting in front of me, and I start singing to her. I call her soul in. I call her body in, and I'm like, okay. And I start calling my plants in, and I start singing to her chest, and immediately I could see this. Now Ryan didn't tell me anything. She just told me she found a lump and we went right into this whole thing. So I'm sitting there singing. And in Shipibo, when you're singing these songs, again, you sing to all parts of the person. And I was like thinking as I'm singing, okay, what contributes to cancer? What could be the underlying things? And the main thing that contributes to people's cancer is the imbalance of your nervous system. Like your nervous system is like scattered. It's like, it can't shut off. It's like this crazy vibration that it just can't turn off. It's dysfunctional energy that's constantly moving. And it's like eating your cells. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to sing to her nervous system. And then I'm going to sing to her blood. I'm going to sing to her body. I'm going to sing to her soul. I'm going to sing to her crown. I'm going to sing to her heart. I'm going to sing to her soul. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to sing to her chest. And I could see, it looked like a date. It was like this brown, the size of like a date. And it was like crusty. And I could see it so clear. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to remove this? And I'm singing. I'm like, okay. And this is where I call in my birds that I work with, the mantis, my other guides. And I'm singing to my mantis. And I take the mantis claws. And I reach inside Ryan's chest. And I touch the thing that looked like a date. And I immediately started throwing up. Like just, even right now, it makes me want to like gag. Sorry. And I touch it, and I immediately start throwing up. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, okay. So I'm like singing to her chest, and I'm like untangling it. I'm like pulling it out. And then when I talk about my deities, like there's so many people, and I think this is what's hard. And I'm trying not to be so judgmental. I'm trying not to be so like egotistical, but it's hard. It's like you get all these people, they want to talk about deities, and oh, they want to talk about, you know, Buddha, and they want to talk about Jesus, and they want to talk about Hanuman, they want to talk about Ganesha, they want to talk about all these deities that they know, and they know all these chants and they pray to. But it's like, bro, you don't even know. You don't even know what these deities are actually here for. And part of that is ego. Part of it I don't talk about it because one of my issues with the whole spiritual community is people talk about things and teach things they shouldn't be teaching, and it creates a lot more confusion and a lot more like chaos and dysfunction than people even realize. And so I have the mantis and I'm working on Ryan's chest, and then all of a sudden Ganesha's like, bro, you better like just call me out right now. So I start singing to Ganesha, and I have Ganesha just go in there and completely fucking dismantle this thing. Now, this is super duper crazy because the night before Remy was singing to me, he was saying Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging. And as Remy was singing to him, like, is he saying Nacho? Because sometimes when he's singing, like, it sounds like they're words, but they're like, I'm like, oh, I misheard that. And so the morning that after Remy sang to me, it was a Tuesday, so I talked to him on Wednesday. I said, Remy, were you singing Nacho? Were you saying the word Nacho to me? And he goes, yeah, I was saying Nacho. I said, what does that mean? He says, Nacho is like to scoop out, like scoop something out. That's what Nacho means. Now, Ryan's grandpa's name is Nacho. And not only has he come to me in ceremonies many times, he's come to Ryan many times in ceremonies. So me and Ryan have this really, like, I have this deep connection to her grandpa and grandma that is just unexplainable, and Ryan can validate that for you. There's like been messages that he's given me that I tell Ryan, and it's like we both just start crying because it's just like, so how did this even happen? And that's, again, a whole other topic I don't want to get into. Anyway, so I call in Ganesha. I'm like, all right, Ganesha, let's pull this thing out of, let's work on this thing. So Ganesha comes in, and I'm singing to Ganesha, and I'm taking the skill set of Ganesha, I'm embodying Ganesha, and I started singing Nacho, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging, Shuchi Shama Muabo, Nacho, Nacho Bayinging. And Ganesha's just taking this freaking thing out of Ryan's chest, just like scooping it out, scooping it out, scooping it out. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, there's plants, there's deities, there's birds, there's insects, like everything has its place. And, my teachers have been like, man, you like, start to sing to the plants more, sing to the plants more, sing to the plants more. I'm like, I do sing to the plants, but I also use these other things, these other tools, these birds, these insects, these deities, because these deities have taught me how to use their tools. And so, like, you don't understand, because these deities not only don't come to you, when they do, they don't teach you how to use the tools that they have. These things have been teaching me this stuff for the past 5 years. I know how to use these things. And so when there's a situation that's dealing with my sister, like, I'm going to pull on all the things that I know how to do to help her. And so, again, like, Ganesha, I'm like pulling this thing out of her chest, and I'm like, then I would throw up a little bit, and then it would rest, and then it'd sing, and then it was just like, what I had seen is like this thing that's in Ryan's chest was like brown and crusty. Like, there was no life going to it. There was no blood supply. There was no signs that this thing was quote unquote alive. And so I was like, okay. So the song, I don't know how long I sang for. I would say maybe 30 to 45 minutes I was singing to Ryan and this whole thing. So when I got done, and I was kind of just exhausted after that. Like, that was kind of my night. So the next day, like, I call Ryan, and it was just like, after that whole happened, that's when it was showing me so I sang the song, I was on the mat, and that's when my plants came in. Palo Santo, Sweetgrass were like, hey, we want to show you the conversation that you had with Ryan today. And it played it back to me, and it was like, what happened right there, Joey? And I was like, oh, I disassociated. I didn't even let the emotion of what Ryan said to me, like, impact me. I just went right into fix it mode, and there was no space to just like feel the impact of like, holy shit, this is fucking scary. But like, for me, when something is scary, it's like I just want to take action, you know? Or if there's a situation that's overwhelming, like seeing my dad in 4.5 years, I just want to like, hey dad, here's the studio, and like, here's Ryan, here's Serene, and like, here's the meditation room, here's the sauna room, and like, oh yeah, like I'm so, like I don't actually take a moment to just like feel the heaviness of like, holy shit, this is fucking intense. And so then the plants were like, look, you did it again on this phone call. And it was like showing me so many times in my life where I just like check out, just completely disassociate. And it's like, you did it again. But like, this is happening while you're here in the jungle. One, so you could understand this. Two, so you can sing to your sister. Because if you weren't in the jungle right now, you wouldn't be not only this clean, this clear, this dialed in. Like, you don't know when you'd even be able to go into ceremony and sing for it. Or you wouldn't have access to Remy to sing to it. So, like, this is a part of your diet. This is a part of your path. This has had to happen. I'm like, oh my God. So then I'm like feeling the sadness and this, like the terror of like, dude, what if fucking Ryan does have cancer? Like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, I'll close OPT right now. Like, I'm starting to panic and I'm starting to freak out and I'm going into major catastrophic thinking. I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, like, and it's like, yeah, just feel that. Because that's also a part of honoring someone's process, is like feeling what it is that they're going through, not taking it on, not trying to change it, but just feel it and listen. And so then I was like, man, I gotta call Ryan and tell her all this tomorrow, you know? So then I got up in the morning and I was like, Ryan, let me know when you're free, we'll talk. And so like I called Ryan, and you know, I told her the whole story, especially when I started saying like, Ryan, there's a word in Shipibo, and this is what I was saying when I was scooping this thing out of your chest. And I was like, it's the word nacho. And then we both just started fucking crying. Like, I was like, man, like when I was singing that, like your grandpa was there. And I was just like, I was like, Nacho, just please, like whatever this is, like just don't let it be, like just like don't let it be cancer, you know? It's like, just help me, like help me get this out of Ryan. It's like, just please, like whatever, man, just like, just help me get this out of her. And I can like see him so clearly. And I was just like, you know, just like telling Ryan what he was saying to me. And like Ganesha was there, and like the mantis, and like, you know, it's just like really intense. And I said, Ryan, like, and I just want to say like, sorry, you know, like I just like disassociated when you told me that whole conversation. You know, I just totally just like checked out. And I was like, Ryan, it's just like, that's how I deal with so many like intense things. I just like check out. And that's not what I'm trying to do, Ryan. It's like, I love you so much, and I just want to like fix whatever this is. And so then, you know, we talked, and I was like, I'm gonna have Remy sing to it tonight, because Remy was like, hey, he called me up at the end of the night. I was like, hey, I want to sing to Ryan tomorrow because like I'm just wiped out right now, and I don't want to sing to Ryan because he's met Ryan, you know. He loves Ryan, and he was just like, I don't want to sing to Ryan like when I'm tired. I want to sing to Ryan when I'm like fully charged up. I was like, all right. So then Friday night, at the end of the ceremony, Remy sang to Ryan, and he told me what he saw, and it was very similar to what I saw, and just a little bit different. And it was funny when I had told Brian what I saw, you know, she started crying too, because she was just like, bro, that's exactly what it feels like. It's like the size of a date, And like our friend Rachel was working on him, this massage therapist, and was like, she was like, it's like literally the size of what you're saying, and it's like this like date-sized lump. And I was like, all right, Ryan, you need to do all these things by the time, it's like you need to do these things. And so then she had like set up these appointments, and I get back, and I just want to say a huge shout out to Rachel Maka, our massage therapist, for like working on Ryan, and then shout out to Dr. Amalia Baca. Amalia is like my sister, my teacher. Like I owe so much to Amalia and her husband Ray. And Amalia is a doctor, a naturopath doctor, and she did like the whole breast exam, and like she did all the tests. And Amalia was like, hey, like it doesn't look like cancer, doesn't feel like cancer, it's not responding like cancer. She's like, but we're gonna do these other tests just to make sure. And so then it was like this waiting game. I got back, and it was like this 3 weeks of just like tests and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's just like nothing we can do, I mean, we like talked about like the nutrition and like what Ryan can do in terms of that, but like we're just like waiting. So then once we find out, we can take the proper steps. And now it's like different now because like Stephanie knows, and like then her mom knew, and like everything was just like, so there was like a lot of tension because this is like an intense subject. It's an intense conversation, just like sensitive, and just like you go there like, what if this is fucking cancer? I'm like, what if this is? And now I was like, I'm trying not to think about it, and everything that I saw in ceremony, and I trust what I see in ceremony, it doesn't look like cancer, but you never know. And so then like 3 weeks went by, and we finally got the results back, and it's no cancer. It's no cancer. And I was just like, and then like Stephanie, obviously me and Stephanie were like super emotional about it. And then I was just like, the reality is I was like, yeah, man, Ryan, like, if you can't work at OPT no more, bro, like you can't, because if you need to have health insurance, and you need to just like do that. And because OPT is my responsibility, like, and I can't risk that, like something bad happening to you and then you have no health insurance. Like I can't, it's too much of a risk. And it sucks because I love having you OPT, but I love having you alive. I love having you know that you're safe. And yeah, it just was like a really eye-opening experience for me. Like really, really, really eye-opening experience to have someone I love so much go through like that scare. I've never had anyone in my life have something like that. And so then it was just again like a wake-up call for me, and like where I'm at, not only in my life, OPT, business, finances, stability, like all of these things. And it's just I've been really just focused since I've been back on like, I gotta grow my business at whatever conversations I gotta have, whatever flyers I gotta pass out, whatever I gotta learn for marketing, like I've gotta do whatever. And so that's what's been happening since I've been back. And we haven't talked about it, one, because we didn't want to tell everyone and freak everyone out, and two, we didn't know what it was, and then three, now that it's cleared, I said, I want to talk about it, right? I want to share the story, And she was like, yeah, go ahead. And so that's why I've been waiting to talk about it. And I just wanted to make sure I was like, again, in a good place and coming from like a grounded spot, and I just wasn't like, hyped up on caffeine or something, But it was perfect in the sense of what I needed to learn about myself, OPT, disassociation, my shamanic skills, because then I told Remy what I did. I said, Remy, I'm going to tell you, I know I shouldn't have done this. I sang last night. I started purging. Now I'm freaked out because what if that thing got inside of me? And he was like, he gave me a lesson. It's like, here's what you have to do if you're going to do things like that. And, that's a conversation I can't really share with anybody, but I was like, okay, like, all right, thank you for that, Remy. And like, I'll start doing that now, But I told him, I said, Remy, I couldn't just sit back and not do anything. It's like, and then I talked to another one of my main teachers back here and told him the same thing. And he was like, yeah, man, like, you just got to be careful and this, that, whatever. And, I was like, well, here's the thing. I need you guys to help me develop these skills. Like, like I have the skill set, but I need to develop other ways to protect myself too. And so then it was really good conversations around that whole thing. So yeah. So that's what's been happening, man, and that's like a big part of my path and the jungle and ayahuasca, why I believe in it, why I believe in the plants, why I believe in these deities, why I believe that me and Ryan are like fucking lifetimes, bro. Inyan, that's a whole other thing I could talk about right now. This movie, Past Lives, that I just saw, which is unbelievable. It was so good. Oh my God. It was way different than I thought it was going to be, but it was A+. Anyways. Yeah. That's what's been happening. I got a lot to learn. I got a lot to implement, a lot to integrate. But I just love Ryan so much. I'm really happy that it's not cancer. And now we just got to figure out why that happened. What that lump stems from. And which is a whole other topic I could have as far as women, breast cancer, repression, grief that they carry in their chest. Again, I believe that everything is a spiritual sickness when these things evolve in your body. So, I've been trying to talk to Ryan about not repressing things, being able to healthily grieve things, because that's all lives in chest. So, and I think, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but anyways, maybe I'll open that up with Ryan or Stephanie, her fucking crazy ass wife, on a podcast with me and Steph can have. So, anyways, thank you guys for listening. Again, if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, you can get a hold of me. You know how to get a hold of me. Follow me at _Apache_alchemist. And I'm hoping to get back on track. This is, I was doing every week in the jungle, but that's all I had. I didn't have much on my schedule in the jungle. And but anyways, getting into that rhythm again. So, all right, you guys, have a good night. Shh.